Every loving, caring patriot in America wants to save this nation for our families, the families that are going to inherit it from us. But here we are, headed toward another midterm. What are people going to do? They're going to preserve the two parties that are destroying us. The Democrat Party is way off the charts. They will pull it together at some point. Somebody is going to rise up and unify that party. It always happens. Both parties go through these cycles. The Democrats are at a historic low right now, and they're batshit crazy. I mean, everybody knows that. Traditionally, both parties have been able to pull out of this because of the fact the other party never seeks their total destruction. Both of them only have a certain limit they will push each other to, because the one thing that the power brokers in this country have realized, and the donors that keep them in office, they realize you've got to keep this sham of a two-party game going if you want to keep the American people under control. Because the truth is, people on both sides of the ticket, no matter which party you vote for, you are supporting, empowering, and perpetuating the people that got us in this mess. Congress has about a 13% approval rating. That is too high. What have they done? They haven't done anything. The Republicans in Congress don't even support their own president. They're not pushing a MAGA agenda. They brag this has been one of the most successful Congresses in the history of America. Wait a minute. They say that they are the best because they passed the Trump tax bill. That was after they gutted key points out of it. What did they do on their own? Republicans in Congress just proved the Democrats, the demon rats, have more power when they're not in charge than they do when they've got the numbers. Republicans laid on their belly and let the demon rats shut Congress down for 40 days instead of pushing the Trump agenda. They sat back and said, we can't do anything. The Democrats won't let us. They could have done something. They could have nuked them. We know that. They refuse to. They never fight back. Remember, when push comes to shove, it is always the Republicans that blink. Trump has had to unleash a litany of executive orders because Congress won't even take up most of the things he wants. Remember in his first term when he was going to put our IRS tax forms on a postcard? They're going to eliminate all of those games that go on behind the favoritism, the penalties, and the controls that they get through the IRS. Trump was going to remove all that. That was a big thing that he campaigned on. Republicans in Congress refused to let that out of committee. They wouldn't even bring it to the floor, and that was a key MAGA instrument from the first campaign. They wouldn't even look at it. When our founders created this country, they had the Philadelphia Convention. Ben Franklin came out of that convention, and a lady asked him, have you got us a government? He said, yes, we have. She said, well, what form of government have you given us? He looked at her and he said, we've given you a republic if you can keep it. The reason he said if you can keep it was because those guys were educated, all of them. They knew the dangers of parties and the cabals that build inside of them and the history of republics. They knew that the history of republics, as Abraham Lincoln said, has been to die by faction. Faction, that's another name for the parties. The parties rise up. That's why our Constitution doesn't even contain the word party or parties. Our founders left them totally out. They know that parties are a necessary evil in a representative republic. When the voters are choosing the leaders, they know that happens. I mean, you can't get parties out of a system like that. They just develop their unnecessary evil. So they warned us to keep controlling it. Most people don't even realize the extensive writing and work that our founders did against the parties, warning us. They were members of parties. They knew we had to have parties, but they warned us repeatedly. They said over and over again, a lot of them, they said parties are dangerous. Do not let them become entrenched. You have to keep changing them out. You can't get rid of parties. You have to keep changing them, because when they get too entrenched, they take over. They solidify control. They are dangerous. You have to keep changing parties out. Now everybody says, well, our founders never saw this coming. You have to be uneducated to say that, because our founders said that. They warned about it repeatedly. A lot of them did. If you haven't seen it, it's because you haven't studied. That's okay. It's just that now that you know, you can look it up yourself. Our founders told us not to get in this mess, and conservatives and liberals are both fighting to keep these parties and keep us in this mess we were never supposed to have. It's destroying us, and people keep supporting it anyway. Our founders never even heard of the Republican and Democrat parties. Our Constitution refers many times to the people. Not once does it refer to a party or any entity equivalent. No faction, nothing. They kept them completely out of the Constitution, and now we have Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives that actually think that these parties are part of government. They are not. They sit outside of government. They have taken over government because people keep voting to let them. People vote away their own power by voting for corrupt parties that serve themselves, and they don't even realize it because media on both sides lies about it. If they even know about it, you take a guy like Hannity or a woman like Maddow, they probably don't even know. They don't study anything. They're just entertainers that read stuff that's put in front of them. These people probably don't even know. But people in the audiences are believing the nonsense that they say about this phony game between the demon rats and the Republicans. Washington, who was not a member of a party because he didn't have to be, he was so popular, he didn't even need a party. Plus, the system wasn't all built together yet. He was the only president we ever had that didn't have a party. And he hated him, and he spoke openly about it, but he knew we had to have him. He came right out and said, parties, those evil entities that seek to grow power and become government unto themselves. We weren't told this in school. You weren't hear anybody in right-wing or left-wing radio or TV media or any politicians saying this. All of them want you to forget that. The power of the Constitution is delegated, relegated to the people. The people are supposed to be the highest power. They say we've got 3 branches of government. No, truthfully, we've got 4, with people being at the top. The other 3 branches are the government that serves the people. The people are the ultimate power. But the parties have been able to supplant the people because the people are subservient to these parties now. They give them money, they give them votes when they complain about them all year long. Are you kidding me? What has gone wrong? I tell you, they dumb down the schools for a reason. And the reason is exactly what we're seeing. People don't know their true power. We have the power, the authority, and the duty to throw out anybody that isn't serving us. Everybody in government serves at the pleasure of the people. But when the people become complacent, compliant, when they decide that they're just going to be subjects of whatever comes down from the top, then you've lost what it means to be a true American. You've lost the most basic founding principle of this country, of the people being the highest power. There are people out there now, Trump supporters. Oh, we should not question him. I support him. I don't care what he does. Oh, I tell you, I was one of the first people in this country through our old group. In 2012, I was one of the first people in this country to call for a Trump presidency, and I fought nothing but conservatives because I'd already cleaned out all the lefties. I didn't have any lefties to discuss things with. I'd gotten rid of all of them. And all the conservatives were telling me, oh, you're just an idiot libtard. You want to vote for a New York Democrat who's going to have Oprah for a vice president. They told me I was a damn fool because you couldn't break with the herd. I fought those people tooth and nail. I put everything I had into that because Romney was the choice. Romney was leading everything. Everyone was telling me because of right-wing media. Right-wing media was saying, Romney is the only one that can get the voters from the middle, the swing voters. He's the only man that can defeat the Democrats. Romney's going to kill them. The fix was in, my friends. The fix was in. And look what happened. But the party mantra was that Trump was a Democrat. Once media decided it was okay, once media smelled that conservatives were picking up on him, that the Patriots were picking up on the Trump message, that's when they changed. That's when it became okay to be a Trump supporter. Rush Limbaugh even said Trump's not going to run for president. He's just doing this for publicity. He doesn't want to give up his TV show and his business empire. He's not really going to run. He's doing this. He's going to get most of the way through, and right before the primaries, he's going to drop out. Rush Limbaugh said that. People were sharing that all over the place. Trump's not a serious candidate. That was the party message. Republican Party did not want him. They fought him. They had 16 people primarying him, and the party was behind everybody except Trump. Now that he's in office, they have never supported him. They abandoned him in his first term, and conservatives still back that party. They abandoned him in the first term. They've been abandoning us for decades, and people still support them because they think that they are subjects. I have so many people tell me, oh, we can't get rid of them. It would give Democrats all the wins. How foolish are people? If Democrats thought that a new Republican Party, a replacement for the Republican Party, would give them all the wins, they would be working hard. Their globalists would be putting money into organizing a replacement party for the Republicans. They would do it from the shadows. They'd find some people out there to carry the torch, and they'd pay them off, and they'd say, get out there and start this fake replacement for the Republican Party, and we're going to let Democrats win everything. Trust me, if a replacement for the Republican Party would empower the Democrats would be the ones making damn sure that it happened. Neither party wants to blow up the boat. They both know that they're getting away with something, but it only works as long as they've got the fake competition and opposition between the two parties, while we still drift steadily to the left. That's all we've ever done. We're losing cities. We just lost New York City to a Democrat socialist Muslim a little more than 20 years after 9/11. And do you think these Democrats don't have any power? You think the Democrats are done? You think they're finished? Stop listening to these idiots in right-wing media that tell you such things. While you're seeing their victories, you cannot deny that they still have power and influence. Look what they've done through fraud in all of our states. It was built into the system right under the noses of Republicans. Republicans did not do their job on watching any of this. People tell me, oh, they've made some arrests. This should have been blown up as big news a long time ago. It wasn't right-wing media. It wasn't left-wing media that exposed this. It wasn't Republicans. It wasn't Democrats. It was a 23-year-old kid with a cell phone and a selfie stick that did the job neither party and none of the politicians have done. He exposed all of this. To think that we cannot get rid of the parties is unconstitutional, it's un-American, and it's unpatriotic. People have already forgotten. In just a few short months, the Tea Party rose in the name of Constitution, God, family, country, patriotism. They swept everything. They commanded the midterm races. They gave the Republicans historic wins. But the problem was the Tea Party was talking about becoming a party. They said, look, we've done this. We all got together. Look what we did. We've done this. Except the reason they did it was because they had right-wing media behind them. But right-wing media, their first loyalty is to the Republican Party over the people. All of them, especially the biggest stars. We've got one out there that's always grandstanding on the Constitution, right-wing media star on the radio. Oh, I'm a constitutionalist. Our founder said this, our founder said that. He will never once tell you that our founders told us we're supposed to remain the highest power. We have the right and the constitutional duty to remove any politician that is not serving our needs or is endangering our country. We can remove them. We can fire them at any time. Nobody tells you this. It is all the purpose behind our Constitution. I heard that same guy, that same right-wing, fake constitutionalist radio host, the guy that said, Oh, I love our Constitution. I worked for Reagan. Buy my book. I worked for Reagan, and oh, I just done so much good for this country. Buy my book. That same guy, one time on air, he said, all of this is wrong. Both parties are shafting us. We're in real trouble here, but what can we do? We're just citizens. All we can do is vote every couple of years. That is so anti-Constitution and unpatriotic. All we can do is vote every couple of years. The reason we have our entire Bill of Rights is so that we have the power to own and control this government as the highest power in this country. Parties are not supposed to have more power than us. Parties do not have power. Remember that. I keep having people tell me they've got all the power, they've got all the money. That's nonsense. The only power they have is the power that we gift them with our votes. The only money they have comes from donors. That's people sending $5, $10. That's little old ladies that are getting fooled by these charlatans and talk radio that say, oh, send them your money. You've got to support this guy. So they send in a portion of their Social Security check. This is shameless. They don't have any money of their own. They have to have it given to them. And we know that they are both bought. Both sides are bought by that. Remember when Steve Scalise was shot by the nutcase Democrat? They were out playing softball on a Saturday. They were very careful in media of both sides not to say who he was playing softball with. There was a handful of politicians out there, congressmen, and the rest of the people were lobbyists. These people play together on weekends. They socialize together. Not only do these lobbyists meet them in the hallway, that's what everyone thinks. They think, well, they get a call from a lobbyist and a guy shows up with a suit and a suitcase and says, well, here, if you sit down and discuss this with me, I will give you money. That isn't what happens. They live together, they party together, they go out to dinner together, they go to the same functions together, they go to the same golf courses, they play softball together on weekends. This is your top politicians with the lobbyists that purchase them. You try to get one of those guys to show up for a softball game in your neighborhood. It won't happen. When they come back, they give us a couple of town hall meetings, carefully structured town halls where you can go in, you can ask a question or two, and they just blow you off. They give you a canned answer and move on to the next guy, and then they collect their basket full of checks. I've been to this. I've worked inside the Republican Party. I worked quite a while as a spy inside the Democrat Party. I've talked about this before in other broadcasts. However, I tell you, that Democrat machine is so much better run and so well oiled, so much more seductive than the dead ass Republican meetings that are just embarrassing. But both parties want to perpetuate the other. They fight over the power and the money that comes in at the moment. But in the end, it's the game they want to keep playing. They don't want to throw away the softball bats and balls and start playing soccer, right? That's the difference. They don't want to change the sport. They don't want to change the Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, fraudulent game. They want you to keep playing that. They just want to stay on top of it. On top of it doesn't mean running things. Remember, the Republicans always blow it while they're in Congress because they get more donations when Democrats are in Congress. People are so desperate to defeat Democrats. When Republicans are in second place, the donations swell because people want to remove the Democrats. The Republicans are paid to be in second place. They actually do better when they're in second place because when they're in first place, they always blow it and piss off the base. And what do people do? They run back out there and vote for them again. In 1962, conservatives and liberals split, and all the liberals went to the Democrat Party, conservatives went to the Republican Party. In 1962, the Goldwater era, they said conservatives are going to take over the Republican Party and we're going to use that to save America. That was 6 years before 1968 and all the riots. They haven't taken over the Republican Party now. We're 64 years later. We've had 32 congressional elections, 15 presidential elections, and conservatives have less control over the Republican Party than they did 64 years ago when they promised they were going to take it over. Don't you see these parties do not want educated patriots and constitutionalists to run this country? I will not be a part of it. We need a new party no matter what the indoctrinated, uneducated, party herd sheep believe from whatever media they're listening to. No, it's not impossible. To say it's impossible, if our founders had said that, we would still have a king. Because they did a hell of a lot more that was a lot more impossible. All Americans have to do, you don't even have to go out and get involved yourself. Anybody that can sit online can say, we need a new party. They're afraid to. They're afraid their friends and neighbors will laugh at them. America was the land of the free when it was the home of the brave. And right now, we got too many candy-ass pansies out there that are afraid to say, this party doesn't represent me, I want them replaced. In England, they had a new party rise up before a very critical election here about 8 years ago. In 45 days, this party started from nothing and blew up. In a social media campaign, those people won with a 45-day window. And I tell you what, I only found that in foreign media. It was a huge story overseas. American media would not touch that because they don't want people to realize when the people band together like we did in the Tea Party, we can make a difference. The only reason why we have two bad parties is because there's a bunch of suckers on both sides that refuse to get rid of them. They're uneducated. They are standing against American founding principles and our Constitution. They're refusing to use the powers our founders granted us, protected in the Constitution, our God-given power, our God-given right to be a free society of people who are treated with justice, not the two-tiered justice we have now. But we've got a right to all of this, and we've got a duty. I will not pass this on to my family, to the generations ahead of us that are already paying for millions, probably trillions of dollars of fraud that got dumped on them on our watch. I will not pass these two corrupt parties on to them and pretend there is nothing we can do. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of patriots yet willing to stand and say that. But we got to start. Ignore the herd sheep. We've got a job to do. We got to get it right. And if we do get it right, maybe God will continue to bless this great country of ours. Thanks for listening.